Welcome back to another midweek theory lecture for Music 133. We're going to enter chapter 15, which is the last chapter for us for the term. We're still doing other things with lyrics and writing songs as well. And the goal here is to say, what about all the other seventh chords that are in a key? So we spent a long time talking about how to resolve 5 7 chords. And then the last chapter was 2 7 chords going to 5 7 chords and 5 chords, and then also the 7 chord is an alternative to the 5 chord. And now in this last one, it says, well, what about the 4 chord and the 3 chord and the 6 chord and the 7th chord? And I'm going to try and summarize a couple things for you to give you context. And then you're going to go through each one of these paragraph examples and try and draw the main point from each one. And coming up towards the end of the week, there'll be a quiz on your comprehension from these things. Here's what you need to know. And I think this is, I think this is telling. It says, the most common chords were built on 5, 2, and 7. Diatonic 7th chords and the remaining scale degrees are much less commonly used in traditional tonal music. So in normal, what we call classical colloquially, but common practice, basically from Bach to Brahms, 17 or 1600, maybe 1650, to about maybe turn of the century into the 20th century, 1920s, 1930s, until we get into modern stuff. It's saying that you're not going to find as many 4 chords and 3 chords and 6 chords with sevenths on them. However, they happen all the time in jazz, and we can just look at these out of course. And I think their explanation is, other than the circle of fifths formula, there are not many formulas to go with them. There's such variance in what happens that you have to generalize and say, well, you can kind of do this and you can kind of do this. I think of it this way: there are so many variant possibilities of how to resolve a chord to another chord now that you can look at your earlier formulas that you had and adapt them, and you can also just free write as long as your spacing, doubling, chord completeness, those kind of things are correct. Let me give you an example of how you could use your old formulas. Okay, so here we say 4 chord is a major 7 or a minor 7, depending on it's in major or minor key. But it says, like, how do we resolve this guy? Well, they have so many possibilities, because 4 can go to 2, or 4 can go to 5, and 4 can go to 1, right? And 4 can go down to 7 because of circle of fifths as well. So if we look at this, they say, well, let's take each of these examples at a time. 4 going to 2, okay? 4 going to 2. Well, the 4 chord is in this key, A, C, E, and G. It's a minor 7 chord. And the 2 half diminished is D, F sharp, A, and C. They're really close. Or sorry, not D, sorry, E, right? So the difference is this note here. And so just like we had super common tone, they're very similar chords. Chords, the third part has super common tone. We're going to do much of that here. Hold over common tones, just move 1, right? You'll get an interesting change of inversions, okay? But it's related to super common tone, right? Move 1 note, you get to go from a chord with a 7th to a chord with a 7th that's a third below it, okay? All right. And then it says, well, what about if we were going from 4 to 5 instead of 4 to 2? Now you're going to use your step up formula, where this steps up and everything comes opposite. But be careful, because this is a major 7th, there is a perfect fifth between the 3rd and the 7th. And just like that half diminished 7 going to 1, right? If we bring this chord down, everything, you'll get parallel fifths there. And so they give you some possibilities. One is to substitute it in a 1 6 4 before you go to 5, right? And another one here is to change up the way that these resolve. We still get step and step against there, but then this one just makes a big jump, right? So we don't get those parallelisms. So you sacrifice some smoothness of voice leading. You have to have sort of mental presence to say, I'm going 4 to 5 with the 7th on the 4. That's a problem, right? So another possibility is to have step here, that way there, and instead of having this guy skip all the way down, have them both go up. And of course, you can also mitigate this by having your F sharp right here in this case, there in the tenor, step down first, and then go into the 7th of the chord. In other words, skip to the 7th rather than to another root. Right there, they showed as a passing tone. So possibilities. More than ever, it's important that we apply our checks to errors in writing sort of semi-preemptively, like we're saying, well, this is a possibility, this is a possibility, that's a danger, that kind of thing, okay? All right, so with that being said, you're going to go through the chapter and say, okay, well, what are the main ideas out of each of these little paragraphs? Boom, boom, there, that kind of thing. It's going to talk about the 4 chord, which we did, and you will get a comprehensive set of notes for me to compare against, and then you'll get to see sort of how you did as well, because we want you to get the right information. You need to work a little bit for it so that it's sort of ingrained into your memory as well. Talks about the 6th chord, okay, and talks about the 1 chord, right? All of these guys having 7ths on them, and then finally it just says, oh, and the 3 chord, very less common in major, but a little more common in minor, right? Okay, and then here's what I wanted to get to for this right here: 7th chords and the circles of 5ths. So it's very common, if we're going to have 7ths in classical music, romantic music, Baroque music, that you will have 7ths on chords that are going down in a sequence around the circle of 5ths. So if you remember that chart, it's like C goes down to F, goes down to B flat, key signatures like this. Well, it also applies for circle of 5ths for chords as well, right? And they give you chord progression sequence, right? 4 will go down to 7, go down to 3, go down to 6, go down to 2, go down to 5, go down to 1, okay? How do we part write this? This is the only place where we get a texture thing. And you already have encountered this before when we did 2 chords going to 5/7 chords, 2 7 chords going to 5/7 chords. And you can take a look here first, but I'm going to explain it on stack paper first. All right, so if you remember that, I'm going to do it key of C, my 2, right? Okay, which would be a 2 7, right? Goes to 5 like that with a 7th. Okay, so I'm just going to write these in root positions, and I'm going to show you what happens when we resolve these guys kind of strictly. Okay, so root to root, right? And then our 7th steps down. Okay, this is my 7th, right? And here's my 3rd right there. And instead of going up to the G, right, we need the, because that's the root of the chord, that's what it normally does when we're doing triads and also, you know, resolving to a triad, right? But since this has a 7th, the princess holds over like that. Okay, and then this one's going to step down like that right there. It's the queen. All right, the 3rd holds over and becomes the 7th. The 7th steps down and becomes the 3rd. Okay, this was complete. This is now incomplete because it is root, root, 3rd, and 7th, but no 5th. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, complete to begin with. Now, if we keep this idea going, a 5th down is a 1, and if we put a 7th on it, then we just do the same thing again. We go root to root. The 3rd holds over and becomes the new 7th, right? And the 7th, the prince, steps down and becomes the new 3rd. And then this one is the root not in the bass, holds over, and it becomes the 5th. So 5 steps down and becomes root, root holds over and becomes 5th. And these are always root, 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 root. You see a pattern emerges here. Third holds over, becomes seventh, seventh steps down, becomes third. Seventh here, steps down, becomes third, and so on. And if we were to keep going with this circle of fifths, a fourth below that, or fifth below that, is the 4 chord, right? It's an F. I'm going to go root to root. My seventh is going to step down right there, right? My third is going to hold over. Now this is the third and this is the seventh. And my fifth is going to step down and become another root, right? Like that. This was complete. That's incomplete. And it's got a great sound. I'm not near a piano, so I can't play it for you right now. But that's what this chapter is about. Okay. Now, if they decide to invert chords, they give you some examples of how that alters a little bit. But at its heart, you know, you want to, this is that example here. You want to say, well, there's my third, holds over, becomes seventh, right? Step down. So you've got this idea of that, right? Third holds over, becomes seventh, right? The root not in the bass holds over and becomes the fifth of the new chord, and so on, right? This is, you can do it in inversion, you can do it in root position. It's all the same, right? And this gets used and abused a lot by composers. It's like a secret formula that they all knew from each other, learning each other's music over time. This is the way you do this, right? And when we see each other face to face again, we'll go over this a little more so you can hear it. But that's the formula. Okay. And then what do? Well, we do a lot of exercises saying, all right, spell a bunch of chords with sevenths. Good. Right. Identify a bunch of chords with sevenths. Good. Analyze some music with sevenths in it. Now let's part right? And they love sequences. And then I think the other thing that they're asking you to do is they're saying, if I have, like, for instance, a 4 chord, right? How would I get into it? How would I get out of it? So you have to think about your chord progression rules. What can go to a 4 chord, right? And what does a 4 chord go to? And when we meet together face to face on Monday, I will show you tricks with that. Okay, but that's it. And then chromaticism, which is year 2. All right, you should be excited. Hopefully we're going to button this down in a week or 2, and then we'll do comprehensive sort of review of all the important things before your big final that comes up at the end of the year. All right, have fun. Start looking through chapter 15 and reading a paragraph. Say, what are they asking, or what are they telling me here, right? And boil these down into one sentence. What's the big takeaway point from that? And we'll meet face to face on Zoom on Friday, and then we will meet face to face in person live on Monday.